Welcome to my channel, part of my imagination. I'm Imagination and you're the Imaginer. Welcome if this is your first time. I'm Jasmine, and welcome back if this is your second or third or however many times you've been here. Today, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I got it on the first try. But yes, we're going to be doing the tag. I'm kind of late because it's like June 27th or something, but better late than never. So let's just roll right into the prompts. So for the first prompt, it is the best book that I've read so far, and I'm going to be going with The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is one of my favorite books of all time. And I've only read the first one. This book is so amazing. I love it so much. It's told in the perspective of three women. One is a small child. The second one is like mid-teen 20s. And the other one is a older woman. And they are dealing with the world breaking. And the world has broken once before, letting civilization rebuild itself. And this time the world's like, nah, no more. This is the end. And it's following the three girls who all have pretty much powers that can control the earth and things like that. I don't want to give too much because I just want you to read it. All right, the next prompt is the best sequel that I've read so far, and I'm going to go with The Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. This is the second book. Wow. This is the second book in the Ember and the Ashes series. I have grown to love this series so much. I have read all three. I read two of them in the same month. And this is a phenomenal book. So this book is pretty much following realistically, the first book is following two characters. You have Elias and, oh shit, what's her name? Why did I forget her name? Layla. One of those. Anyways, yes. So one of them goes to Elias. He attends this like pretty much assassin soldier school, and he's like the top student at the school. And Layla is a pretty much poor girl whose family is pretty much like, they're the peasants essentially, and they're the ones that do pretty much all the slave work and stuff like that, and they're always getting murdered and things like this and targeted. So her brother ends up getting taken, and then she goes to the rebels and says, you guys need to get my brother out because my mother was this important figure. And paths intertwine. It's really good, and you should just read the first book. Don't read this one first because this is the second one, but yes. All right, the third prompt is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. And I'm going to be going with Conjuring Women, a novel by Afia Adorkafor. Sure. Names are very hard for me. Yes. Anyways, this book I just actually bought. I just purchased this book at Barnes & Noble. And the premise of this story, it sounds so freaking good. So it's a mother and daughter with a shared talent for healing and conjuring curses are at the heart of this dazzling first novel. I can't read. So it's following three women in the South before and after the Civil War, bringing that to life. And it sounds really good, and I can't wait to pick it up. And if you haven't heard about it, now you have. Hello? The next prompt is my biggest disappointment, and that has to be A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I had so many, and maybe that's why it was my biggest disappointment, is because so many people had such great expectations or set my expectations really high for this book, and it fell short for me, like extremely short. I gave it 3 stars, and I feel like it's not like 2-Star City of Bones bad, but it just didn't meet the expectations. And the beginning of the book was just so fucking boring. It literally was so boring, and I was just like, could we not? Can we like get to the plot? And it took like half of the book to get there. mind you, I also listened to this and read along, and I was still just like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? The next prompt is the biggest surprise, and I'm gonna go with the Mercies by Kyron Millwood Hargrave. I don't own it. It's right. I'm just gonna put a picture right here. And yes, like I said in one of my previous wrap-ups for this book, I thought it was something else. Because of the cover, I thought it had something to do with like indigenous background or story, and that's why I initially checked it out on my Libby app. And then I started listening to it, and it was completely different of what I thought it was, but it was so good. It was very short. It was not a long book at all. It was really short, and I really, really enjoyed it. And pretty much this story follows a very small island in Norway, so it's Norwegian, in the 1600s. And essentially, all the men in this village end up dying at sea because there is this bad storm that ends up killing all the men. Now, obviously, back in the 1600s, the men did all the work and the women really didn't. And it's a combine of different religions and different people, and it's bringing together these combinations. And it does touch on there is a female relationship in this story as well, a little bit more towards the end. But this is actually based on true events as well. So back in the 1600s, there were witch killings in Norway, and that is a true story. And actually, the bad storm is actually a true story as well. I believe the men that died in the village was also true as well. But it follows this really religious man who it gets assigned to pretty much mayor this town, and it's following another female character who is dealing with, you know, having friends that have one religion where her mother has another, and just kind of like, yeah, I can't tell you much more because it's a really short book and I don't want to give it away, but I would definitely check this one out. Okay, the next prompt is my favorite new author or debut or new to me. And so technically she's new-ish. So I read Nick Stone last year. The first book that I read by Nick Stone was Dear Martin. That was the first book that I read by her. And then this year I read Odd One Out and Sweet Getaway by Nick Stone. And honestly, I've actually met her. Oh, wrong side. Picture here. Hello. I met her, I believe this year. I want to say this year I met her. Or maybe it was last year. I love her story. I've loved every book that I've read from her. I still need to read Jackpot, and I believe that's it. Maybe. But I did read her new, which one of her books is on a list for another one of the prompts. All right, the next prompt is my newest favorite crush or fictional crush. And I'm going to go with Elias from An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. Honestly, it's hard not to love Elias because he just like, he cares about everyone else but his own well-being. Well, okay, okay, calm down, sis. Because I mean, he does care about himself, but his calling is like, he feels like things are wrong, and it's hard not to love him. And you see him fight between like being a different man but fighting his battles, and like, it's just hard not to love him. And I'm gonna cry when the next one comes out because I just know it. But anyways, yeah. And then also there was a lot of books that I read that didn't really have, unless like you want me to say like The Darkling, but yes, we're not gonna talk about that. We're just gonna move on. Next prompt is my newest favorite character. So like, let's just go back to the last person that I talked about, and it's 100% The Darkling. Like, how can you not love The Darkling? I feel like everybody loves The Darkling, and he is just like, he's bad. And I know that's like the typical, oh, love the bad boy and, you know, like the villain, but like, can we actually talk about how the way, I don't know, it's just something about The Darkling, okay? And yes, Alina, I know it's wrong, but sometimes you don't want to be right, okay? All right, anyways, let's move on to the next one. All right, and the next prompt is a book that made me cry, and I don't own the book, but the book is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. She also could have been put in as a favorite author. I knew she was going to become my favorite author the moment I read The Nightingale, but then I read The Great Alone, and it solidified it for me, like solidified it. And so pretty much The Great Alone is about a family who's, it's following this girl, and pretty much this girl is being raised by her mom and dad, and her dad is a Vietnam vet, and he has some past traumas, he has PTSD, and it's just things that he's dealing with. So one of his fellow soldiers ended up dying and gave him his land in Alaska. So they end up moving to Alaska, and she is being raised, and you're following her story from a young girl up until her teenage years. And it was just a heart-wrenching story because you're dealing with a relationship where her dad, trigger warnings for abuse, both, I would say both mental and physical. Well, definitely physical for sure. But you're dealing with her watching her dad abuse her mom, but her not understanding why her mom has this relationship with her dad, and her relationship with her mom. And then obviously there's a love interest, and just kind of seeing that relationship and kind of seeing how small towns work. And it was a very heart-wrenching story. I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars. And if you haven't already read Kristen Hanna, you should definitely check out The Nightingale. All right, the next prompt is a book that made me happy, and I'm going with Clean Getaway by Nick Stone. I actually mispronounced this book in the beginning wrong, but it is Clean Getaway. This is her middle grade story. It's very short. It's really thin and short. But pretty much this book is following a young African-American boy who is going on a road trip with his white grandmother. And she is pretty much taking him along this story where her and her husband were supposed to travel, and they were supposed to go to these places, and there are some places they did go, and she's trying to repent for some things. I'm not going to really tell you much because it is such a short book, and it is middle grade, so it's kind of easy to figure out. But essentially, she's reliving the time where it was wrong to be in an interracial relationship. And it's kind of touching on that base, and you get to see this relationship with him and his grandmother and him and his dad. And it's just a really cute story, and I would just definitely check it out if you want something that's a pretty quick read. All right, the next prompt is the prettiest book or most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year. Excuse me. And I'm going to go with Beast Made of Night and Crown of Thunder by Tochi Adabuchi, I think I'm saying that right. These are the covers. They're honestly so beautiful. I know I'm late to the game because these came out like, 2 years? They came out last year. But either way, I'm late to the game. And these covers are honestly so beautiful. I love them so much. And, just look at them. All right, and last but not least, the last prompt is books that I need to get to this year. And I have a few. Let me grab them. All right, so the first book that I cannot wait to get to is Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett. Oop. I know. Oh, wait, hold on. That's going to irritate me because I always edit them on this side. So, yes. Anyways, okay, can we talk about this cover? I also bought this year, so we could definitely talk about this cover. But, yes, this book is pretty much following a girl who has, she is HIV positive. And, obviously, she is trying to navigate having this diagnostic while also trying to date and be in high school. I believe, yes, she is at a new school and things like that. And I am very interested to read this story. It is probably one of the first that I'll ever be dealing with that has HIV rep in it. So I'm very curious. I did, what am I saying? I did post this in my Let's Talk About Autoimmune Deficiencies and Disabilities We Can't See With Our Eyes. I will have that linked up, whatever side it is, and also down in the description. So go ahead and check it out. But I need to get to this, time now. All right, so the next book that I also need to get to is The Untamed by Sebastian A. Jones. And I have another book in my hand. Can we just, this is what, so it's a graphic novel, but I've had, ooh, that glare though. Anyways, yes, I've had this on my shelves since last year. I got at the Emerald Cities Comic Convention, and I met the author. They're all personally signed. He said that they just got approved for it to be an HBO show. The female, his co-author is Amanda Stedberg, the girl that played Rue in The Hunger Games. She is actually the female main character in this story, and they've been sitting next to my favorite books, and I just need to get to them. And the artwork is like, just, the artwork is beautiful, and I love it. And the way that he talked about the story, I genuinely am so interested, and I just need to get to it. All right, so we're not going to talk about how I haven't got to this book yet, because your girl is terrified. And I'm kind of just like trying to push it a little bit closer to the last release. But that is Dark Age by Pierce Brown. I know, this being the 5th book in my favorite series of like all time, I should read this. And I should have read it when it came out. But I literally was terrified. And then I got into a reading slump, and I tried to get myself out of it by rereading Red Rising, which if you go over to my Twitch, I am doing a reread of Red Rising with my Twitch followers and subscribers. And I stream every Sunday, book related at least. And I don't know what book we're going to be reading again, but we do a weekly book read and discuss on Sundays. But yes, I need to read Dark Age. If you don't know what Red Rising is about, please check out the multiple videos where I talk about Red Rising, because I feel like at this point, I don't need to tell you guys that Red Rising is my favorite series of all time, because you guys know that, and I love it so much. I love it so much. You guys will probably love it as well. There are a few people that don't like it, and that's cool. I mean, no judgment, but judgment, and you know, it is what it is. I still love y'all, but anyways, yes, I need to get to this. And I mean, there's a plethora of other books that I need to get to, but those are my priority 3. So let's see by the end of the year. And that is the end of this book tag. I hope you enjoyed my answers. I tried to pick books that like not everyone knows about, because it's so easy just to come on here and talk about books that everybody is already talking about. And I know that's hard to do, but those are the books that I have read for this year. I have actually read a total of 65 books. I am behind. Somebody get in my ass to tell me to start reading more books. I did have a horrible reading month in May, but yes, that's all that I have for you guys today. Be sure to check out my description where you'll find easy ways to contact me, as well as any of the books and channels that I talked about. I hope you enjoyed this video enough to like, comment, and subscribe. And if not, just imagine that you did and come back again. Until next time, keep imagining.